In this tutorial series, I'm going to teach you how to implement this game system into your game.
I know I shouldn't have clicked on it.
Okay, so you'll notice it's automatically spawned in another 5 objects for me to collect. Phone rings again, and if I answer it, you'll see another message flashes up. This one's blank, and it would try to play another audio file. And again, it's spawned in 5 more objects for me to collect. Let's see how this was done. Okay guys, welcome back to another 10-minute Unity tutorial with me, Dr. H, on behalf of Octo Beard Media. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to construct the phone and how to attach the phone controller script to it that makes it play the ringing sound effect and the audio messages. So let's get stuck in. I'm going to start off by creating a 3D object. I'm going to make a sphere. This sphere is going to be the basis of my phone. I'm going to shrink my sphere down so it's 0.3 by 0.3 by 0.3. That's going to be one of the pieces of my phone. I'm going to zero it so that it's in the center of my scene like so, and I'm going to frame on it like this. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to duplicate that with Command D, lift it up a little bit. I'm going to duplicate it again. I'm going to take that down and I'm going to stretch it and I'm going to squish it in the middle and I'm going to maybe move it out a little bit like this. So that looks like the start of my phone. In order to make it look all phony, I'm going to drop in a metal texture onto that, and that, and that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make spheres 1 and 2 the child of sphere 3. That's going to be my ringer. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a quick cube like so. I'm going to bring the cube up. I'm going to shrink it down so it's a little bit flatter. Down so it's a little bit smaller. I'm going to set it back like so, and I'm going to lift the phone up and put the phone in it like that. Just center this up slightly, and I'm just going to rename that phone because that's going to be my main phone section. I'm going to drop my glass texture from my previous tutorial onto it here just so it looks slightly different from my phone texture, and then finally I'm going to create a 3D object cylinder, and I'm going to shrink this down until I'm happy with the size of it, and I'm just going to eyeball this in here, and that's going to be the pole that holds it all together. And I'm going to put my metal texture on that. I'm going to make the sphere a child of the phone. I'm going to make a cylinder the child of the phone, and now wherever I move the phone, everything else goes with it. The final and perhaps most important stage of this is I need a trigger around the outside of it. Just like the previous tutorial, we're going to be using onTriggerEnter in the script here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a game object, 3D object, and I'm going to create a sphere. I'm going to position the sphere overhead. Just move my light out of the way for 2 seconds. I'm going to position the sphere overhead here, so it's pretty much on the center. And then I'm going to lift it up so it's pretty much in the center of that, and I'm going to grow it. Now I want this to be big enough so that when the player gets close, the phone's going to stop ringing. Obviously that's no good because I can't see the phone. I'm going to switch the mesh renderer off like so. So what I've got now is I've got a green sphere around the outside of my phone, and you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make that 5 by 5 by 5. So it's nice and big around my phone like that. If the player gets anywhere within inside that sphere, they'll trigger whatever they need to trigger. The final thing is, because it's going to be on trigger enter, I just need to make sure that I've checked this trigger box. And then I'm going to put the phone here inside this sphere, and I think I'm going to rename the sphere phone controller. And sure enough, I'm going to drag the phone controller script onto it here. Now if you're one of my students and you're watching this tutorial, you can find the phone controller script with the other assets in the SharePoint. Otherwise, I'll put all of the scripts at the end of all of the tutorials, and you're more than welcome to dive in and write them yourself. As soon as we do this, we'll see 2 things on the phone control script. First of all, something called ringer, which says it's an audio clip. And now it's got an audio source as well, which says it needs an audio clip. So I've gone ahead and downloaded some suitable cell phone ringing music like this. that rings 3 times. The way this is set up, it's a cluster of 3 rings. So once it starts its first ring, it will have to get to the end of the second and third before it stops. If you download a sound effect that only has 1 ring, then it will stop as soon as it's finished that 1 ring. I'm going to go back into the phone controller, and I'm going to attach that cell phone ringing sound into the ringer, and I'm going to attach it into the audio clip on the audio source here. That phone should now ring when the trigger tells it to. And the trigger that's going to tell it to ring is when I've collected 5 objects. So let's make sure that I've actually got 5 objects in my scene that I can collect. I'm going to save my scene quickly. Test. And then let's go and test this. It's ringing straight away because, of course, I have forgotten to decheck play on awake. Let's try that again. Phone's not ringing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Phone starts ringing. Absolutely fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted. Ooh, my phone's a little bit small, isn't it? Right. Let's make that phone slightly bigger in the whole scene, shall we? Just scale that up a little bit. Frame in on that. It's always a good idea to make models next to your first-person controller. That way you can see what they're actually going to look like in terms of scale in the scene. Let's put that back there. I'm just going to delete my main camera. So the final thing we need to worry about in this tutorial is how we get these audio messages on here. So you'll notice in the phone control script there's a section that says messages. And this is a list or an array. At the moment the size is 0. You can have as many messages as you want, but this tutorial is set up for there to be 4. So I'm going to push 4. When I do, it creates 4 audio clips in here. The first one being 0, 1, 2, 3. This is where I'm going to drag all of my audio. Now the audio I've recorded myself. And if you're one of my students doing this as part of the Antisocial Game project, then you will already have written your scripts and hopefully recorded your audio to fit into these boxes here. This is my audio, complete with static and everything else.
I know I shouldn't have clicked on it. But the link said like and share.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my phone controller and I'm going to drag this message, and I've only recorded 1 for the purposes of this tutorial. I'm going to drag that message into element 0 because that's the first message that's going to play. If I had a second, third and fourth message, I would drag the second one in there, the third one in there, and the fourth one in there. Don't worry about the on-screen text. That's going to be controlled using the GM script for reasons that I'll get into in the next 10-minute Unity tutorial. For now, the phone controller script should handle the playing of this message once the player gets inside the trigger. It should also stop the telephone from ringing when it does so by cutting off this sound effect here. Let's test it.
I know I shouldn't have clicked on it. But the link said like and share. And I did. And now I regret it. Now I think he's after me.
So as we can see, that's worked pretty well. Now at the moment, obviously these are really easy to collect, but if I was to dot this around the scene that we built in the previous set of 10-minute Unity tutorials and make the player have to run around to find them, it would increase the difficulty of the game. In the next 10-minute Unity tutorial, we'll take a look at adding text messages to flash up at the same time as the audio messages play, and we'll take a look at how we generate more of these around the map at predetermined spawn points. Thank you very much for listening.